good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. It's your girl Phoenix Marvelous, and today we got another rabbit hole message. Okay, this one is gonna be more illustrated because it appeases to your subconscious memory and your cerebral vortex. Okay, the ability to see will be heightened within this video, so let's jump all the way into it. So you read the title, and if you didn't if you couldn't, here it is. The supernatural has complexity above the range of chakra and biblical standard. Okay, so if you are guided to this video, if you're watching this video, more than likely you have some type of connection to the supernatural, to the esoteric, to the religious, to the spiritual. Okay, so when we talk about chakras as far as like, hey, mind, body, soul alignment, solar plexus chakra, cycle, the fucking root chakra, the crown chakra, so on and so on. Okay, and as far as Christ consciousness goes and the alignment into that, so I've talked about this and I will talk about it more as these messages evolve. Okay, but we all know we have about 7 through 8 chakras. We have 7 through 8 conscious levels. Okay, there's really 10. Okay, but once you step outside of the religious conscious level, meaning like outside of that Jesus complex, which you are now aligned with that God-like complex, you are now aligned with creating the God within self here. Okay, you are now stepping outside of the spiritual evolution of the world, the universe. You're now going into the supernatural, the cosmos. Okay, so a lot of you guys had to deal with biblical constructs, biblical forums, biblical fucking excuse my language, or religious context. Okay, and these contexts, these values basically determine the structure, the concept, and the direction of your path. Okay, so say for instance, you are aligned, whereas like your chakras, say for instance, you know, we're dealing with 5D communication, we're dealing with 5D network right now, and I'm sure scientists and things of that nature have already come into contact with networks and database above this level and range. But in order for them to, you know, basically put it out for us, they have to train it themselves, they have to test it themselves, and this is kind of what's going on. Okay, so a lot of you guys are going to be tested by the supernatural. A lot of you guys are going to be tested by the universe, the cosmos. They want to see what level you're at. They want to see what type of knowledge they need to be bringing you, what type of guides they need to be seeking for you, and what type of mastery that you need to be seeking for yourself. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. So within this video, we have now stepped outside of the religious database. We have now stepped outside of the spiritual database. We are now working with supernatural elements. We're now working with different dimensions. We're now working with different occult like timelines and codes. Okay, so let's get into it. So the first thing that I wrote down was ranging above and below timelines that correlate with urban legends and myths. Okay, so first we are in the concept of the matrix, meaning like the Bible, the Quran, all 5 literal religious concepts involving politics, involving society, involving psychology, involving the way that we just move around ourselves and people. Okay, but once you step outside of those, once you start to want to go higher, you step into a different timeline. Okay, I kind of talked about this when I talk a lot about the Sabrina movie, and I will touch on this a lot. Okay, a lot of these subjects will move forward with us. Okay, but we all know that the Bible, okay, we all know that a lot of religious texts are based off of certain timelines. Okay, hence so and so BC, so and so before Christ, after Christ, things like that, okay? When you step outside of those timelines, so whereas before man was made, or after Christ had died and resurrected, and things of that nature, whereas the stories need to still be written, okay? Just how they have religious prophets and things of that nature, they also have supernatural ones, okay? So do your research, okay? So right now we're stepping into a different timeline, okay? I'm also getting something about amphibians, I'm getting something about animals, I'm getting something about dinosaurs, I'm getting something about your memory, your conscious levels are increasing. I'm also getting, you may feel the need to spend more time in water, you may feel the need to spend more time, okay, outside when it's raining, when it's in a misty like state, okay? So when we talk about urban legends and myths, these are things that I've been talking about on my channel, okay? So kind of like the Candyman effect, the horror effect, whereas like you can correlate a lot of these movies, a lot of these shows to real life things. So we have Michael Myers, a serial killer, okay, who is basically depicting that abuse like dynamic, whereas you don't want to go the bigger person route. You want to get back, you want to get that revenge back, okay? So he was seeking that revenge, he was seeking that lust for life. And then we have that Freddy Krueger effect, whereas like you have these rapists and these pedophiles who are killing these kids after they, you know, do their deeds or whatever like that, and they become haunted by these traumatic events and things of that nature. So it starts to haunt their dreams and their memories and things of that nature. You have I wrote down these two, which are very symbolic: the Santa Clare movie, okay, and the Sabrina movie, okay? So all of these things, once you step outside of the timelines that you've been trained to basically think about, to analyze, to live in here, okay, your mind starts to open up, your mind starts to develop a different state of conscious level, a different perception, okay? This also brings in the rabbit hole agenda, because it brings in the concept of why. It brings in the concept of how. It brings up the concept of what else, what if, okay? These are also things that you may come into contact with on LSD, on psychedelics, on weed, okay? Okay, a lot of these elements that are outside of these timelines here, they coexist with illusions, they coexist with magical portals, and they coexist with different dimensions, okay? So the first one, I want to just, like, these are just examples, okay, so I can kind of like tell you guys like a broader perception of like what you're stepping into with this message, the supernatural elements and realms here, okay? So for example, okay, so when we step outside of the biblical ranges, the spiritual ranges, whereas like, hey, you're a tarot reader, you're a psychic, you're a medium, or you're a prophet, you're a seer, you're this, okay, and we step into those, you're a vampire, you're a witch, you're a warlock, we step into these magical elements. You have vampires, you have zombies. These have been depicted multiple times, not only through history, but in books and through movies, okay? We all know zombies, vampires are real. They're urban myths, urban legends, and things of that nature, okay? But they are depicted in real life, okay? On the Santa Clarita Diet, it basically talks about this god who turns a god basically because of some type of illness, poison that they had contracted, and basically they were remade in this godlike energy, and now they need blood in order to stay alive. Basically, this is like the whole show and what it depicts, and it's the exact same form of what a vampire is, okay? Basically trying to fight to stay alive, okay, or dying and being bitten, and then you have to go into a different construct, okay? We also have witches, we have warlocks. A lot of movies on Netflix, or a lot of shows on Netflix, depict this same type of energy. We have Sabrina the Teenage Witch. We have all those crazy ass other shows. We have Supernatural. We have all those things. Also, a real life depiction. These are real life depictions in comparisons, okay, is artistries. A lot of artists, a lot of the people that you look up to, a lot of the people that you talk about, you hear about, okay, they're witches, they're warlocks, or they're dealing with these elements, okay. They do the exact same things that you'll see on Netflix, or they do the exact same thing that you see in these movies, these shows, just behind the scenes, okay. And then we have elemental beings, okay. So on my blog they talk about gnomes. Also during Christmas and things of that nature, they talk about the same type of symbolism, okay. So basically the supernatural is about making non-existent things come to life here. That's also what magic is about. It's about putting magic into something that is not existent, okay, or not existent to the human eye, or supposedly that's so, okay. So once you step outside of that 7 conscious level, which is the Christ consciousness, you then start to use superhuman abilities. You then, because the conscious level, Christ consciousness, it's in the boundaries of psychic abilities and mediumship. But once you start to step outside of those ranges, you are now outside of that type of power, and you're now grasping onto new powers, okay. We all know vampires, witches, warlocks, gnomes, all of these things, they have supernatural powers. They have powers that a lot of us cannot get unless you have experienced some type of life or death situation, or you are just blood related to these individuals or these things, okay. I also went on to say timelines that do not add up with the biblical code of nature law indicate a dream, an illusion, or a portal, okay. So anytime there is no evidence of something being there, that is because it needs some type of initiative code in order for you to get into it. So you know how you see those movies and they're like, hey, what's the magic word? What's the secret code? This is kind of the same thing. You're not going to be able to reach this certain level. You're not going to be able to take ownership of this power, take ownership of this advancement if you if you do not understand spiritual law, if you do not understand biblical law. And that does not just mean Christianity. That's whatever religion that you believe in, because these are literally the starts, okay. These are the starts. These are your moral codes, so that when you do pick up on these new traits and on these new religions, that you don't stray from God, or you don't stray from who you are, okay. So with that being said, here, these are pretty much the messages for today. The messages for this reading. These readings or these messages are not going to be long at all. There'll be like 10-20 minutes maximum, because it's like really one of those things whereas you're supposed to come on this whole, grasp it, and go on to your next situation, okay. I'm trying to think about anything that else I need to like pick up. I'm gonna read from this spirit book, okay. I'm also getting something, okay. So the first spirit that we pulled is the Lord of Pigs, okay. It's a hog spirit. I'm also getting, pay attention to the energy that you take up, the space that you're in, and for how long, okay. Time travel, time is all significant, okay. We are the creators of time, but the gods and the divine have rulership of time. Now, if you're working with the gods and the divine, then you have a helping and an aid in time as well. Make sure that you spend your time according to what you want to do in life. The longer you spend on something, the more developed you'll be, okay. Pay attention to your word structure. Pay attention to the things you say, okay. Positive words breed positive outcomes. Negative words breed negative outcomes, okay. If you want to get outside of this 7 code standard, which is this biblical chakra, spiritual biblical conversion here, you need to practice firstly on your psychic abilities, and then once you feel like you've honed that, you need to then practice on the outside ability that you feel is outside of your psychic abilities here, okay. And then that's pretty much how you'll do that. So I'm also getting, we have rivals, we have allies, and then we have lover and enemies, okay. So you guys could be dealing with these energies that could be trying to keep you in a certain state, chakra level, concept structure, okay. So you guys are wanting to inherit certain powers, certain divinities, certain rights within the spiritual, so that it can manifest physically, so that you can use it, make money, and whatever you want to do here. Make sure you get away and you stay away from these hog-like energies. And if this is your energy, make sure that you take time out to take care of yourself, so that you don't feel the need to spend more time somewhere than is needed, okay? We just pulled the elf spirit, and that's actually one of the spirits, thank you God and thank you divine, that I was actually going for when I was talking about the gnome spirit. So yeah, they have the gnome, which is like magical elements. They also have the elf, okay? So both of them grant magical type of wishes to you here, okay? So this is a reading. I have nothing more to say. Okay, this reading is probably like these type of messages, okay, I'm really taking my time on them, so they have like a lot of editing to do. So yeah.